There's a new spin on casual dining near Drake University. Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers. Craveable faves, flatbreads, delicious burgers, frozen cocktails, and crazy cool vibes. Get to Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers today.
The morning news on YourIowa.com is brought to you by the Commission on U.S. Territories, striving for equal representation around the globe, and by Keep Iowa First, committed to keeping the Iowa caucuses the first in the nation contest in selecting the presidency of the United States. And now, here's your host, Brent Roske.
Good morning. Day in the United States. So says the Constitution. At noon today, Eastern Time, we will have the 46th president of this country will be sworn in. Of course, Joe Biden. Let's walk through what we're going to be seeing today. Our friend Brendan Kownacki is going to be joining us. There's some shots of him. That's from the last inauguration with Mark Burnett. He's going to be showing us some great videotape he took just last night. With the different barricades, the fences, the razor wire, etc., talking about how this is much different than inaugurations that he and I have both attended in the past. We're also going to be chatting with, here's some footage up on the screen. LBJ was a film that came out a few years ago. There's Woody Harrelson. One of the producers of that film, Damiano Tucci, is going to be with us all the way from Florida. Damiano is a big producer, just produced a film called Barrego in Spain. They actually swapped Spain for California. So telling us about some of the realities of filming during the pandemic. So looking forward to having a great chat with Damiano. And then this footage, folks, this is just a week ago outside the Capitol, how different it is from today. The gentleman who filmed this is Brendan Kownacki. He's actually going to be with us next Tuesday to talk about what it was like to be on the scene there filming this and some other just harrowing video that we'll be showing you. That's next Tuesday. And obviously I pulled the sound out of here, but just incredibly violent clashes. And this is just one of the videos that we're going to show next Tuesday. Some tweets, folks. I go on Twitter, so you don't have to. Lady Gaga is going to be part of the inauguration today. I pray tomorrow will be a day of peace for all Americans, a day for love, not hatred. One of the other folks involved in the inauguration today is a group called the Isiserettes. They're here from Des Moines. It's a drum and dance crew. And one of the founders, Cory Williams, is actually going to be on this program today. So that's our connection to the inauguration today. So very happy to have Mr. Williams and the Isiserettes on today. Another tweet, former leader now, Mitch McConnell, talking about tomorrow a new president and vice president will be sworn in because of many other brave Americans have sworn their own oaths to support and defend the Constitution. Matt Dowd, contributor to ABC. I had the good pleasure of spending 2 days with Mr. Dowd and a bunch of other folks at an independent politics conference in Pennsylvania a couple years back. He's actually leaving ABC. I don't know if he's going to be a candidate, if he's going to work for the administration or what. But he just posted this morning: as the sun rises on Inauguration Day, let us remember Lincoln's words, with malice towards none, charity for all. Let us finish the work we are in to bind up the nation's wounds. And final tweet of the day, Joe Biden. So this is last night, just a stark difference in approaches to how the presidents may be handling their Twitter accounts. Last night, Joe Biden tweeted, "Tonight in Washington, we came together to honor 400,000 Americans we've lost to COVID-19. He says the last year has tested us in unimaginable ways, but now it's time we begin to heal and to overcome together." Again, a stark contrast in the tone we're used to seeing from the president's tweets. So again, a huge show, folks. Brendan Kownacki from DC. Also, Lisa Marks is going to be walking us through her Hollywood picks. Always love chatting with Lisa, and she's going to be with us from Leigh-on-Sea, the beautiful village just outside of London. But before we get into all that, it's great to have friends, folks. My buddy Paul Strauss, the DC Shadow Senator, I asked him, his office is about a block and a half away from the White House. So I asked him to, grab a cell phone and take some video yesterday of what it was like outside of his office. And he sent me this. So let's take a look.
But as you walk with me down the street here, You see a couple of cars that aren't usually parked here. This is an FMTV. It is an all-terrain vehicle, and the nice heavily armed gentlemen that are escorting it and checking vehicles as they come in are with the Pennsylvania National Guard. And so right now, my office, which is behind there, I know you visited there, we are behind this security perimeter. And so we feel very well protected. So Brent, we have seen fences like this before. When I work with you to cover national conventions, these are the kind of temporary security fences that are typical. But let's go see if they can take us inside, and I'll show you what Black Lives Matter Plaza looks like today. So the last time we stood together here on the B of Black Lives Matter Plaza, things looked a little different. But right now, we are with a lot of security as we get closer, but we're doing what we can to try and give access to the street where possible, because as you know, this is a very important place to the people of Washington, D.C.
And folks, now we have live with us from D.C., Brendan Kownacki. Hey, thanks for being on the program this morning, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Brent. It's great to represent Washington and just be part of everything as this historic day in American history.
You know, you and I had a chance to chat just before we went live this morning, and you know, Strauss, his office is literally a block and a half away. The inauguration I attended was President Obama's second inauguration, and it's a welcoming moment for DC. Usually, inaugurations are usually safe and secure, but it's about bringing the country together and welcoming people to announce the new president. You're saying that the tone right now in Washington, that's not really the case.
It's definitely a little bit tense in Washington. There's been a lot of comparisons that with all the extra security, that people feel that it's like a war zone. I think the one thing I would say is that people need to remember, now this is the fifth inauguration I've been in Washington for. There's always a lot of security, especially thinking back to President Obama's first inauguration. They even had closed 395, the highway, and you had people walking on there as a means to get from kind of the downtown area towards the Capitol. The big thing is that the perimeter is normally designed as a stopgap between people on the outside and then attending the event. And now, obviously, they're just creating a big no-go zone. And so that's the big difference, because you're seeing a lot of walls, but not a lot of doorways, not a lot of checkpoints. There is National Guard and police officers everywhere. I did notice yesterday that there are police officers from around the country, which is part of a tradition for the inaugural. Usually you'll have delegations of officers from different major cities who come in to be part of protecting the parade and protecting the inaugural ceremonies. I did see police cars from Atlanta, from Omaha. So at least we see that there are some aspects of tradition that are still playing out. It's just very different for the audience who's standing by and watching all this. As with some of the images you're seeing, there's a lot of sidewalks closed, a lot of fences, a lot of police tape. So it's a little daunting.
You and thanks to Brendan, he actually filmed this footage for us yesterday. And again, you mentioned, normally there is a secure bubble. There's ways to get in and out, but you're saying and right there, you've got, buildings boarded up blocks away from the Capitol, from the White House. You're saying the bubble has definitely expanded this year as far as lockdown area. Is that right?
It's definitely 5 to 7 blocks towards or from the outer edge of the Capitol Plaza and everything like that. So it's definitely a big perimeter. Obviously, after what happened on January 6th, nobody wants to take any chances. But I think it's going to be important to remember that this is still hopefully going to be a peaceful transition of power, starting at about 11:35 when the vice president is sworn in. And then from there, that hopefully we'll actually see this regress. One of the questions that I have is actually, when will all the fences come down in Washington? We saw these coming up just days after the attack on the Capitol, not necessarily all related to the inauguration. So I'm not really sure when DC will return to normal.
Yeah, it's such a difference. Again, I attended just one inauguration, and got my ticket through my member of Congress at the time, and that got access to. They usually do zones, different colored zones in front of the Capitol there, and I forgot, I had orange or green, I forget, and that gets you to a certain strip on the grass there, etc. But yeah, just no one's getting in right now. I remember I emailed a few weeks back about tickets to inauguration, et cetera. And they said, we really don't know what's happening today. And so much of today's performance is going to be virtual. The big celebration tonight, you got Bruce Springsteen, Lady Gaga, some other folks, and most of them are going to be satellited in. They're not going to be participating live. And Brendan, so you've attended some of these before? We showed earlier, you've definitely been, on camera speaking on, different networks, et cetera, during the inaugurations. What have you attended in the past, and what were some of the highlights that you saw back then?
Going back to the second Bush inauguration, I had just moved to Washington, D.C. As a fresh-faced college student, and I actually volunteered to be part of the presidential inaugural committee to try to see if I could just, get in on the action. And I got a great role where I got to work with coordinating the press at one of the inaugural balls and one of the big events there, which was cool because I got to work with people like Don King, who's a big Republican donor, Ben Stein, Gloria Estefan. These were some of the big attendees at the second Bush inaugural. And then just 4 years later, I got to work with ABC and MSNBC. I was actually on the Capitol steps when Barack Obama was sworn in as the first African-American president. And so, this was a major moment. It was the biggest crowd I've ever seen, stretching all the way from the Capitol back to the Lincoln Memorial. And then 4 years later, for his second inaugural, I got to commentate on the ceremony, on the parade. And just last cycle, I was attending the Trump inaugural, and I noticed sitting right across from me was Mark Burnett. I know you showed the picture. He created The Apprentice, of course. Some might have a lot of questions about what he saw, what he knew, what he expected from this administration that's going to be departing. President Trump will be leaving the White House in just a few minutes.
Brendan Kownacki live with us from Washington, D.C. Thank you for the footage. Thank you for waking up early with us this morning. And I will be seeing you out there in D.C. in just a couple weeks. We have some more filming to do. So thank you for that. I am going to send it over to a piece I actually directed for Justice for Vets, Martin Sheen, Allison Janney, the cast of The West Wing. We're going to be right back with Lisa Marks right after this.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform. Most veterans return to our communities as leaders, but everyone's journey home is not the same.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
Without assistance, the downward spiral can be quick and destructive.
It doesn't have to be this way.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Justice for Vets is the only national organization dedicated to the expansion of veterans' treatment courts.
Veterans treatment courts hold our veterans accountable for their actions.
By providing structure, treatment, and mentoring, these courts help our veterans and their families get their lives back on track.
And veterans treatment courts work.
We ask much of our men and women in uniform, and they ask little in return. It is our collective duty to come to their aid when they struggle on the home front. This not only honors their sacrifice, but makes our communities stronger.
A donation to Justice for Vets helps put a veterans treatment court within reach of every veteran in need.
A donation to Justice for Vets keeps veterans and treatment where they belong.
A donation to Justice for Vets shows your commitment to leaving no veteran behind.
A donation to Justice for Vets will help save lives, restore families, and rebuild communities.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. It is time for something we're trying different. It's the Hollywood Smash. I don't know, Lisa. What do you think? Is the intro? I'm still working it out. What do you think?
I quite like it. I like the fact I could see some sunshine and some of my friends' houses. I was like, "Aw, that's nice."
Yeah, it's funny. Lisa and I are talking about Hollywood. I'm in the Midwest, and she is in London. But yeah, I think it's safe to say right now we both miss sunshine and palm trees. Am I speaking out of turn?
Yeah, actually, we have some palm trees along South End seafront down here, but they look really miserable. Like they've sort of, relocated to the wrong part of the world. Like, where did I go wrong in life? I'm a tree.
That's true. Why do you hate me so bad? So this is, one of my favorite parts of this show. Every Wednesday we get to see Lisa Marks talking to her about, streaming picks. Life is so different nowadays. We don't necessarily go to the movies. We, of course, want entertainment business to keep going and going strong. But now we're pretty much at home. And so we're relying on you, Lisa. What's good out there? There's an ocean of stuff to pick from. What should we be looking for on our streaming picks this week?
Oh, my goodness. An ocean, a universe. Well, actually, what I've gone for this week is something that's kind of sort of relevant maybe to where we are today. And also, can I just say before we start, it's real honor to be on your show today of all days. And I just want to give a shout out to my friend Chris Graham, who went to Des Moines University for 4 years. And she now lives in London. I'm going to be talking to her later today, maybe taking in the day's events. But anyway, so what I'm going to be talking about today, I know, One Night in Miami, which is currently on Amazon Prime, which is a fantastic movie. It's directed by Regina King, her directorial debut. She's an actress. She's been around a long time. It's fantastic. And it really tells the story. It's sort of a fictional account of a night in 1964 when Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown spent the night together at a hotel, shooting the breeze, talking about politics, talking about life. And really, their conversation sort of reflects the politics of the day. And it's actually adapted from a stage play by a guy called Kemp Powers, who also wrote and directed Soul, which is on Disney Plus at the moment, which hopefully I can talk about another time. Yeah. Which is a really interesting movie and slightly different direction for Pixar. But so this was a stage play of his. And I think it debuted in a theater in Los Angeles, I think somewhere on Melrose or Santa Monica or something, a few years ago. And it's now been adapted to a movie. And of course, it's interesting when you take a stage play and sort of pivot to that visual medium of movie. And this is very intimate. It's dialogue heavy, but it never feels too dense. And it never loses you. In fact, if anything, it just pulls you in and pulls you in and pulls you in. And it's emotional, it's heartfelt. There are, certainly ups and downs, but it's a really interesting look for Black men in America who, are all celebrities in their own right, all have a very different attitude to their celebrity and how they're perceived by the world around them, especially white America. And, just at this point in time where, America's going through such a change. And then, of course, here we are in present day with some similar issues, still.
What's the many interesting things about this film, but what it does, it says at the beginning, inspired by true events. They did not ever meet at a hotel room like this. They were colleagues. They did spend time with each other, but this is a fictional account. But what is absolutely true is some of the challenges that they were going through. And in the movie, Malcolm X gives Sam Cooke a hard time. He says, even our boxer friend here has a way to put social justice critique in his personality and his celebrity in what he's using his platform for. Sam Cooke, why is your music so bubblegum, etc.? And I just think that's really interesting. These people did not become icons of their age because they weren't concerned in how they were being viewed. It was absolutely a part of what they were doing. And so it talks about that. You mentioned films based on plays being really talky. Another one that Netflix just did, they just made a film adaptation of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Also, again, a classic play by August Wilson. but you can see it. You get a sense with that, and with this film, I could see how this would be necessary to convey this information on a stage. But I'm with you. I think there's so much poetry in the language, and I for me, get fascinated when I see diligent, high-crafted people focused on bringing words into, say, a character playing Malcolm X, someone playing Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, etc. And so you every word, every piece of wardrobe, every art direction is concerned about getting it right. At least you hope it is. And with a movie like this that has a good sized budget, someone like Regina King, who obviously directed with a steady hand and a real solid knowledge of what she was, trying to accomplish. I really enjoyed it, and I was glad that you said you wanted to talk about that today, because I think it's an important film. I think people should see it. It's also a great tool to learn more about these 4 incredibly influential Americans.
Absolutely, and also the performances were great. I mean, let's face it, you've got, to play Malcolm X when you've had Denzel Washington play Malcolm X, to play Muhammad Ali when you've had Will Smith play Muhammad Ali. You just think these guys are shooting high, but I have to say their performances were exemplary. And you had Eli Goree. I've actually written the names down because obviously, I can't remember anything these days because of my advancing years. But Eli Goree played Muhammad Ali. Kingsley Ben-Adir, who played Malcolm X, and he's a Londoner, which is interesting. Leslie Odom Jr. was Sam Cooke, and he obviously was a Tony Award winner for his performance in Hamilton. And Aldous Hodge was Jim Brown. And I also read that Regina King would only look at actors who would audition for her. So that immediately cut out the why would Will Smith audition for example? There were probably a lot of actors there who would have been immediate picks, but she went for these 4 guys, and the casting was fantastic. It really was.
Yeah,
Sam Cooke as well. Let's voice as Sam Cooke was fantastic, and his singing is just beautiful.
You mentioned Denzel Washington. I have to give this little tip to folks. Denzel Washington just finished filming. Joel and Ethan Coen are doing a new version of the Scottish play, also called The Tragedy of Macbeth, starring Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth and Denzel Washington as Macbeth. I'm so looking forward to this. They filmed it in black and white. I mean, if you wrote down on a board what the movie I would love to be involved in, that would be it. So Denzel Washington, that's coming out. And Queen's Gambit, the young actress who played the best friend of the lead, she is in it as well. And some other, it's going to be killer. It's going to definitely be up for Best Picture next year. Okay, so that's One Night in Miami. And you had one other one you wanted to talk about.
Well, I just thought let's sort of flip the switch a bit and go for something completely different. And so if you just head on over to Netflix for this one, it's a documentary short called What Would Sophia Loren Do? And it's just a very cute idea. It features this 80-something grandma, Italian-American grandma in Jersey, who has been a lifelong Sophia Loren fan, and who has basically followed Sophia's movies and has taken life lessons from her movies. And, she talks about her own life in correlation with Sophia's own life, and also the roles she's played and how the roles she's played has affected her and has, almost, it's more than a celebrity, a fandom. She sort of really finds direction in her life by following Sophia Loren, who I must say is someone I would love to interview. So if anyone can make that happen, just give me a shout. Brent knows how to get a hold of me. And it's 32 minutes long. It's directed by a guy called Ross Kaufman, who won an Oscar for a documentary feature in 2005, I think, called Born into Brothels. It's very lighthearted. Sophia Loren herself is in it as well as herself. And there's a nice little twist at the end. You see lots of footage of her movies. And it just, I was quite emotional by the end of this. And for something that's 32 minutes long and is just really quirky and shouldn't really work on paper as anything you'd really want to watch. But actually, again, as you know, we talked about the humanity of people and just getting to those heartfelt moments. This really filled a gap. It's 32 minutes. I don't think you'll regret. So seek that out. It's just gone up on Netflix.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Obviously, streaming, the rules are different. You don't have to provide 90 minutes on in a movie theater, so people feel like they got their money's worth. So a half-hour movie is interesting. One comment that I've been reading a lot about, that the streaming bosses, they're talking about churn. So what churn is people are, say, joining Apple Plus, they're joining HBO Plus, Disney Plus, and watching the show that got them hooked. They binge watch it and then they cancel it. And they're really concerned now that they're having to spend so much money on these tentpole projects, and then to get people to stick around. And Netflix actually just announced, I don't know if you saw this, but new releases every week. They released a trailer basically for this upcoming year in Netflix, trying to get people to say, okay, don't jump back and forth. People, LA Times reporting that people are saying, we don't mind paying for streaming channels, but we will not pay more or the same of what we were paying for cable television in the past. And once you start adding up Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, start adding them up, all of a sudden you're back to that $100, $150 a month that you were paying before you cut the cord. So great picks from Lisa. We're looking out for you viewers. She's making sure that your streaming dollar is well spent. So Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show today from Lee on Sea.
My honor, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of the day, Brent.
Absolutely. And folks, because it's Inauguration Day here in the States, yesterday I had the good fortune to chat with Cory Williams. He's one of the founders of the dance and drum corps, the Isiserettes. They're actually in the inauguration today. Let's take a look at my chat with. Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. Obviously, all eyes are on the inauguration today. And look at this video, folks. That's the Isiserettes from Des Moines, Iowa. That's actually, they did a performance down in Houston. And I've got Cory Williams with the group here live with us. Cory, thanks so much for taking time today.
Hey, no problem at all. We appreciate it.
So, Cory, why don't you tell folks what they're watching, the Isiserettes? They're going to actually be in the inauguration today, their third one. Boy, it's just so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's beyond amazing. I mean, yeah, this isn't something that you plan for. It's something that you go out there and you do what you do, and people like it. They ask you to come back, and we've been lucky enough to be asked back 3 times. So, I mean, that it's just a testament to how hard the kids work, and it's a lovely affair to be a part of this inauguration.
So, Cory, obviously, they were part of both of the inaugurations for President Obama, and now today's with number 46, soon to be inaugurated President Biden. What's your involvement with the Isiserettes? It looks like it just takes a lot of hard time and work from you.
I've been with the group since it started. So, my mother was one of the founders, and I used to be the, 1980, I was the mascot. I got to dress the part, but never got to really get on a drum. And, as I got older, I got my opportunity to play through the team. And, after being a part of a organization like the Isiserettes, it's such a family oriented group that it makes you want to stick around and come back for more. So when I graduated, I stuck around and became the drum instructor, and just giving back what people gave to me. I look up to so many of the guys when I was a kid that, I wanted to make sure that the next generation and generations to come get that same opportunity.
So today, people are going to see the Isiserettes. You guys sent in a video for the virtual part of the inauguration. Is that right?
Yes, that was really cool. I mean, it's like, we sent in for it back in November that we wanted to be a part of it. And we just sat around for, literally like 2 months with no response because, of course, they're trying to figure out, can we have an inauguration? Is COVID going to completely keep us from doing anything? And then out of the blue, we get an email saying, hey, we'd like you guys to be in it, but you need to record a video like in the next 8 days. So, we just, we kind of put it out there to everybody and said, hey, we're doing the inauguration, but the cool thing is we don't have to drive 26 hours on a bus to get there. We're going to do it right here in our backyard. So it was really cool to do it that way.
Cory Williams is with the fantastic group, the Isiserettes. They are from Des Moines, Iowa, right here where I'm talking to you from. Congratulations to them, the team, all the coaches, all the parents giving up their hard work, their time, and we're just so excited for them to be a part of the inauguration today. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more of the program. Don't go anywhere.
There's a new spin on casual dining near Drake University. Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers. Craveable faves, flatbreads, delicious burgers, frozen cocktails, and a crazy cool vibe. Get to Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers today.
So that was Cory Williams with the Isiserettes. Their third, folks, their third inauguration. I attended one. I was a face in the crowd, but this is the third one they're a part of. Boy, those are the photos that the grandkids put on the wall. Just amazing. So congratulations to Cory and the Isiserettes. Folks, going to throw it over to a pre-recorded interview right now. Damiano Tucci, I just taped with him a couple days ago from Florida, and he's a big producer, produced movies like LBJ, and just if you go to their website, it's incredible. They just did a film in Spain, of all places, with Lucy Hale. So let's take a look at my chat with Damiano.
Welcome back to the program, folks. I'm so grateful to all the folks who take time out of their busy day to sit down and chat with us. Today's no exception. Damiano Tucci is a part of the Tucci brothers. These are amazing filmmakers. He's coming at us today from Florida. Damiano, thanks for being on the program today.
Brent, thank you very much for having me.
You know, it's truly my pleasure. And your brother was going to be on. We had him on for a second, but I guess he's in. You know, folks, I'm in Iowa. I'm looking out the window. There's literally a blizzard warning right now. And they say, well, he's in the Canary Islands doing a location scout right now. So I don't have any sympathy that the internet didn't work for him, but we will schedule I'll schedule time in the future to have both you guys on. But it's just, you folks are doing so much from, you know, all kinds of motion pictures. You got a new film, Barrego, that with Lucy Hale you were just working on. But that's just the beginning of a very long list. Why don't you walk folks through not only some of the projects you've worked on, but how you got into all this?
Yeah, well, thank you, Brent. So we started very early in the film business. I started actually as a child actor when I was like 12 or so, and quickly learned that the acting thing wasn't really my cup of tea. But I very much enjoyed the whole experience of being with a crew of people that are all driven to make the same thing and tell the same story. And that just hit a chord with me and kept me motivated to keep going. So already at a very young age, I would skip school and go work on sets as a PA, and my brother would do the same. And gradually that grew into getting a job a little bit bigger in the production department, and then that kind of grew into producing and just kind of running the whole thing from top to bottom. You mentioned Barrego. It's a film we just finished. It was shot in Spain also, because things have been a little bit interesting right now with COVID. So Spain and desert worked out very nicely for us. And it's been an interesting journey, and we are still very much kids in a candy shop every time we make a film, and it's always exciting and new, and we find things that make it different for us every time.
You know, I love having artists on this show and producers. I'm a member of the Producers Guild, and to me, when you have the task of marshaling the best of different categories of artists, trying to create a cohesive vision and bring it into one project, it is a huge task, and it just takes such a perfect, gentle touch of all the little marionette strings. What part of producing do you love? What part of it gives you challenges?
For the most part, I personally love all of it, because I really grew up from the ground up. Like, I started as a production assistant, taking out trash, and worked my way through every department and worked in every department. So there isn't anything I don't love about it. But I think the thing I love the most about it is marrying, like you said, a bunch of different artists and finding the right types of artists that will jive together and create that perfect harmony that results in a great film. You know, the parts that maybe are less enjoyable are always either the finance part or the distribution part can also be, not particularly enjoyable. That being said, I have such great friends that work in those fields and have developed such good relationships that even that part's not that bad, when all's said and done.
So I've only done a few international productions. They were commercial shoots. They weren't feature shoots. So during your Barrego, were you filming that? That was fairly recent, right? That was pandemic times?
Oh yeah, so we wrapped photography at the beginning of November. So
what was it about filming in Spain? I mean, folks, flying crews from LA to Albuquerque can be a challenge. Getting international teams and potential language barrier and all that. Why did you guys sit down and say, you know what, Spain it is?
So Barrego is an actual place in the California desert. It's about 2 hours or so outside of LA, and the story takes place there. However, when the pandemic started, one of the first things that was shut down in California were the parks and the permitting offices. So we quickly determined, because we were supposed to shoot this film in March, we quickly determined that we weren't going to be able to film it in actual Barrego. So we had to get creative, and I think it was either the director or one of the other producers brought up Spain as an option. And, you know, my brother and I grew up in Italy, or back and forth from Italy, and a lot of the old spaghetti westerns used to shoot in Spain and in Italy. So we had already known a little bit about that. So then we started diving in and really looking at the locations and found almost exact matches for Barrego. So we decided that was, if we could make the logistics work, we were gonna move everything and do it there because we could pull it all off. That was a whole different can of worms because, like you said, traveling a cruise is quite difficult. We were fortunate enough to have the Spanish government had just opened in July to allow filmmakers in. So we had to get visas for every American that came. Normally when you're going to Europe for a film, you don't have to do that. There's a 90-day window where you can just travel and work. So it was a whole different set of challenges that we had to deal with. But at the end of the day, it was worth it, and it was amazing, and the Spanish crews were great, and it was a very good experience.
You talk about getting visas. I just remembered that I directed in Athens for the Olympics, but then when the China Olympics came around, we went to the consulate, me and a producer, and they looked at it and they said no. And I said, what do you mean no? They said, we've given out too many production visas, and that was it. We had to cancel the shoot. It was for a big cruise line that you've heard of. I don't want to, but we were going to do a 15-day shoot in Beijing, and they just said nope. That was it. Nowhere to go. So I can't. I mean, well done. You guys made it happen. And you know, this is not a small movie. How big? How many days did you film? How big was it?
We filmed for 25 days or so, which for an independent film is not a ton. It's not a little either. It's kind of like a good healthy middle. We prepped for a month and a half or something like that. So it was good. It was good. But we were able to, because 90% of the movie takes place in the desert, we were able to get a resort where we put all the crew up and created our own COVID bubble where we were testing people regularly and they were only interacting with each other. So it was a very nice way to deal with the current climate in the film business.
It's amazing. I mean, you know, and that creativity, that's why you're so good at what you do. You said, you know, you're getting no. You got this little thing over here. Screw it. We're going to Spain. And here you guys have wrapped your film. It's amazing. You mentioned you filmed a movie over Zoom, you said?
Yeah. So we did a web series coming out soon called Weird Times that my brother actually wrote and directed. And it deals with a couple that meets through Zoom. Like a guy stumbles into a Zoom yoga class, hits it off with the instructor, and they have a romantic arc. And the whole series was filmed through Zoom. So we had camera packages and lighting packages and sound packages that we sent to each actor. And then every morning, the whole crew would get on. We had cinematographer, sound guys. You know, we would all get on and walk the actor through setting up the lights, setting up the cameras, and the whole process. It was very fascinating. You know, we made it work. It was one of the weirder things we've ever done, but it came out very fun, and it's an interesting blip into what the world is like right now.
Boy, I think that title is perfect. Weird Times. We all are sensing that in some way or another.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
When will that be out? When can we see that?
I think we're going through the release dates right now. Originally, we were going to release it in October. I think we're now looking at February-ish.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Month?
Yeah, next month.
Oh,
exactly.
great.
It's all done. It's ready to go.
And is that, you said it's a web series, what, 10 episodes, 20? How'd it go?
I think it's 12 episodes. Each one runs somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes.
Oh, that'll be fun. Well, and again, folks, I don't know any filmmaker. Henry Jaglom was good friends with Orson Welles, and Orson Welles told him a quote, and Henry had it put on a piece of board and put it up above his office, and it said, "The absence of limitation is the enemy of art." Yes. And what you're hearing from our friend here is that a hurdle in front of you is just means you got to be good at what you do. So that's fantastic. And so Barrego, what's timeline on that?
Barrego will be released this summer, so probably June. We have a great distributor that has come on board. We're about to announce. We're not sure if we're going to do theatrical or not, just because we're not sure what that looks like these days. But we, in theory, are planning on it. So we'll have to wait and see a little bit.
A huge topic of conversation. We had on Oscar winner Brian Fogel on here. By the time this airs, we will have had Oscar nominee Sam Pollard on, and they're absolutely in that. They have big movies releasing right now, and they've decided to basically do, in both of those instances, basically the theaters get it for a week, and then it's going to be this pay to watch it, like on Amazon, still in the theaters type of thing. I mean, what are the types of conversation you folks are having with your team about all this?
Well, it's an interesting conversation because traditionally, even independent film, right? Films in the smaller budget range, theatrical is always almost a dream that you really want to hit. You have to make a really, really good movie to be able to get that. So we have never really factored the theatrical into our plan, right? It's always like, we really want it, but let's make a really good movie. And then if the distributors like it, they will be our partner that helps make that happen. And recently we've gotten to a point where we're doing that more and more, where we do have distributors that like what we're making and are giving us theatricals. So now the conversation has shifted to, does it make sense, right? Are we going to get enough of an audience on the theatrical window? Or are we going to get more of an audience if we go give it to Netflix or Hulu or any of these streamers? And we kind of have to be objective about that and really look at what's best for the movie and what's best for people actually seeing the movie. And it's looking more and more like you're going to see more streaming stuff, because I'm somebody that loves the cinema. I go all the time. I've been in Florida, and Florida opened up the cinemas pretty quickly after the lockdown. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to keep going to the cinema. But not a lot of people do. So it's always interesting,
So even 10 years ago, the conversation was, your theatrical is your marketing for the DVD release. And obviously that whole business model has changed. To get a movie to show in theaters, you need such a huge P&A budget, folks, prints and advertising. If you get it in the theater but nobody knows it's there, then nobody comes. So there's such an investment, moving the dots around the board, especially with, I was just reading this morning, 65% of theaters across the states are still shut down. So good for you guys that you say, let's Pixar, actually, when they sat down in their first meetings, they said, we're going to need a business model or a business motto. And the guy said, it's easy. He wrote down the word quality on a piece of paper. He said, that's And so good for you. You make good stuff, and people will want to see it. Well, Damiano, this has been great. And your brother, he's literally there, but he's in the Canary Islands. He's probably listening to us. He might be saying, "No, you got it all wrong." Who knows? But how about we have the two of you on in just a few weeks when the web series is ready to go?
Fantastic. We appreciate that, Brent.
That'd be great. And you enjoy your palm trees and the beach down there in Florida. I mean, no kidding. I'm looking out the window here. We have a blizzard warning. We're supposed to get 8 inches of snow in the next 10 hours. But, these are the choices we make, folks.
I love it.
Folks, we're gonna take a quick break, but thanks to the Tucci brothers, they were both here. We got to chat with Damiano. We'll have Tiziano on and Damiano next time. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be more with the program right back after this.
There's a new spin on casual dining near Drake University. Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers. Craveable faves, flatbreads, delicious burgers, frozen cocktails, and crazy cool vibe. Get to Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers today.
Well, folks, what an episode. What a show today. Inauguration. In just a couple hours, we will be welcoming the 46th President of the United States, former Senator, former Vice President Joe Biden. Thank you for tuning in today. Folks, we got an interesting show tomorrow, great show. Irene Tsu is going to be on. She's co-starring in a Netflix film. She also wrote her memoirs, which include stories of her dating, maybe some people you've heard of, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra. It's just a fascinating story by Miss Irene Tsu. That's on tomorrow's program. Friday, we're going to Iowa actors, Minneapolis filmmakers, a movie called Nina of the Woods with Megan Hensley. We're going to have her and the director on Friday. And then next week, I showed you that footage that one of the journalists that was on the scene at the Capitol for the shenanigans last week, the riot, and talking to us about how incredibly, dangerous and harrowing it was to be filming with one of these and trying to stay out of harm's way. All that is coming up on this program. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.